The siren went off at 2:13 a.m. Not a car alarm, not an ambulance, not anything I recognized. It was too steady, too clean. One long tone that faded out slowly, then returned again exactly 12 seconds later. I woke up already tense, like my body had been waiting for it. Outside, the street was empty. No lights in neighboring windows. No movement. The sound didn't echo the way it should have. It felt close and far at the same time, like it wasn't traveling through air but through the idea of distance. My phone lit up. No notification banner. No vibration. Just text already open on the screen. Emergency alert. Remain indoors. Do not approach windows. This is not a drill. Below that, a timestamp. 2:06 a.m. 7 minutes before the siren started, I checked the official emergency app. Nothing. News sites, down. Social media refreshed endlessly without loading new posts, like the internet had reached the end of what it was allowed to show me. The siren sounded again. Longer this time, lower. I stepped away from the window. That's when I heard movement outside. Not footsteps. Dragging, slow, uneven contact with the pavement, like something being pulled by gravity rather than muscle. It stopped directly beneath my window. I could feel it through the floor, a subtle vibration that didn't belong to sound. The siren cut out mid-tone. The silence afterward was worse. My phone updated. Phase 2. Active. Light sources should remain on. Do not turn off interior lights. I hadn't turned any off. The bathroom light flickered anyway, once, twice, then stabilized. I heard someone speak outside, not shouting, not calling for help, reciting. If you can hear the siren, you are still counted. The voice was wrong, not distorted, flattened, like it had been stripped of direction. I couldn't tell if it came from below, above, or inside the walls. I backed into the hallway, keeping the lights on, every room glowing harshly now. The air felt thicker, harder to breathe, like the house had been sealed too tightly. Another alert appeared. Do not acknowledge movement in unlit areas. It will attempt to correct you. I didn't understand what that meant. Then I saw it. Not clearly. Something passed through the edge of the living room just beyond the reach of the ceiling light. A shape without detail, taller than the door frame, moving too smoothly, like it wasn't stepping but sliding between frames. The moment I focused on it, the lights dimmed, not off, lower, as if responding to attention. The siren returned, but now it was coming from inside the building, above me, below me, between walls, different pitches, slightly out of sync, overlapping until the sound folded into itself. My ears rang, my vision blurred. The alert updated again. Correction in progress. Please remain where you are. I wasn't moving. I swear I wasn't. But the hallway felt longer now. The distance between rooms stretched subtly, like the space itself was being adjusted. I took one step forward and felt the floor shift under my foot, not structurally, spatially. I heard breathing behind me, slow, measured, too close. I didn't turn around. Another voice joined the first, then another, all reciting the same sentence, slightly out of time with each other. If you can hear the siren, you are still counted. I realized then what the siren was for. It wasn't a warning. It was a test. Something had happened. Some kind of boundary failure. Some kind of misalignment. And the siren wasn't telling people to evacuate. It was checking who still responded, who still reacted correctly to instruction, who still occupied space the way they were supposed to. The unlit areas of my apartment began to deepen, darkening beyond normal shadow. Not absence of light, absence of definition. The edges of furniture blurred where they crossed into it, like the dark was erasing detail. Something moved inside that darkness. I kept the lights on. I followed the rules. The phone vibrated violently now, screen flashing white. Final notice. Do not let it enter full light. Do not let it remain unseen. I didn't know how to do both. The breathing was closer, right behind my shoulder. The siren reached a pitch that made my teeth ache. And then it stopped. Everything stopped. Sound, air, motion. For a single frozen moment, I saw it reflected faintly in the TV screen. Tall, too thin. Limbs bent slightly the wrong way, like they'd been aligned by something that didn't understand joints. Its surface looked unfinished, like a placeholder shape waiting for texture. Where its face should have been, there was nothing, just a smooth absence that seemed to lean toward me, curious. The lights surged brighter. The thing recoiled, not in fear, in error. The siren did not return. My phone went dark. When morning came, the street outside was normal. No marks, no damage, no reports. The emergency alert never existed according to my phone history. But the hallway in my apartment is still longer than it used to be. And sometimes, very late at night when everything is quiet, I hear a siren very far away. And I know it's counting again. The official explanation came 3 days later. A brief notice on a local government website. No press conference, no alerts, just a paragraph buried under routine infrastructure updates. Residents may have experienced an unauthorized test of the municipal warning system. No danger was present. No further action is required. That was it. No mention of the siren. No mention of the instructions. No mention of the missing. Because people were missing. Not dramatically. Not in numbers that triggered alarms. just enough that you could convince yourself they'd moved, changed routines, stopped being relevant. The kind of absence that hides in paperwork. I noticed it first in the building. Apartment 3B was empty. The door unlocked, lights still on inside, furniture untouched, plates in the sink, a coat hanging by the door like someone had stepped out briefly and never corrected the assumption. The hallway outside 3B felt compressed, shorter than the rest of the floor, like space had been tightened there. I didn't go in. I learned quickly that entering places where the siren had failed people felt wrong. Not dangerous, incorrect, like standing in the middle of a sentence that had already ended. Others noticed things too. A co-worker mentioned her upstairs. Neighbors hadn't come back since that weird night with the noise. She laughed it off, said they probably went on vacation without telling anyone. When I asked which neighbors, she hesitated. I don't remember their names, she said, but I remember there were 2 of them. That answer bothered her more than it should have. Then the footage started circulating, quietly. Clips uploaded to obscure forums, mislabeled, rehosted, disappearing and reappearing under different file names. Security cameras, doorbells, baby monitors, always recorded between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. The pattern was consistent. The siren sounds. Lights are on. Someone moves toward a window, a hallway, a darkened corner, trying to see. The moment they focus on the unlit area, something adjusts, not entering, correcting. People didn't vanish, they were edited. One video showed a man standing in his kitchen, phone in hand, recording nervously as the siren wailed outside. The light above the sink flickered. He stepped forward to adjust it. The camera glitched. When it stabilized, the kitchen was empty, but the camera was still recording. Breathing could be heard, not his. The next frame showed the same man later that morning, walking out of his apartment like nothing had happened, except his shadow lagged behind him by half a second, stretching longer than his body should allow. That man still exists. Technically, he goes to work, pays bills, responds when spoken to, but people describe him as flat, as if something fundamental has been smoothed away. He never reacts to sudden noises anymore, never looks surprised, never hesitates. He does not cast a reflection at night. That's when I realized the siren had more than 2 outcomes. Some people stayed counted. Some people were removed. And some were corrected just enough to remain. The siren wasn't a warning, it was a calibration. Light versus dark. Seen versus unseen. A test of whether someone could occupy space without forcing definition onto what should remain unresolved. Those who tried to see too clearly. Those who turned off lights. Those who stared into unlit corners. Those who tried to understand instead of comply. They failed. Not punished. Reclassified. I found a document leaked from a facilities management system not emergency services, maintenance. It referenced the night in neutral procedural language. Event, low frequency, spatial desync. Response, auditory alignment signal. Result, partial success. Remaining anomalies. Acceptable. Acceptable. That word stayed with me. It means the loss fit within tolerance. I still follow the rules. Lights on. No windows. No attention paid to movement where light fails to reach. But sometimes, when I pass corrected people in the hallway, I feel something behind my eyes. A pressure, like the world is checking whether I still occupy my place properly. And every now and then, very late at night when the city is quiet, I hear a siren far away. Shorter now, sharper, like the system has learned, like next time it won't give instructions. It will only listen for who responds correctly and who doesn't need to be counted anymore. The second signal didn't make noise. That's how it got so many people. No siren, no alert, no instructions. Nothing dramatic enough to resist. It arrived as a feeling. A pressure behind the eyes. A subtle wrongness in depth perception. Hallways that felt slightly longer than yesterday. Doors that closed a fraction of a second too late. The sense that the room had shifted after you entered it, then pretended it hadn't. I felt it at 1:37 a.m., wide awake, lights on, everything normal. Except the shadow under the bedroom door was breathing, not moving, expanding and contracting gently, like something on the other side was testing whether the shape still matched the space it was assigned. I didn't open the door. I sat on the bed and waited. That was the correct response. I learned later that the second phase doesn't correct those who fail. It verifies those who passed. The city changed quietly over the next week. Nothing newsworthy, no disasters, just subtle inconsistencies. Buildings repainted in slightly different shades than before. Stairwells that repeated one extra step on certain floors. Windows that reflected a sky that didn't match the weather. People started complaining about exhaustion. Not the normal kind. The kind that comes from being awake while something else uses your place. A neighbor told me she felt like she had been standing in the wrong spot all night. Another said he woke up convinced someone had adjusted his posture while he slept, straightened him like aligning a mannequin. They laughed when they said it. That laughter wasn't voluntary. The corrected ones were easiest to spot now. They moved efficiently. Too efficiently. They didn't pause in doorways, didn't hesitate before crossing streets, didn't double-check things. They trusted space completely. That trust is unnatural. One night I followed one of them, a man from 2 floors up. Quiet, polite, always home at the same times. I followed at a distance, keeping lights behind me, never letting him fall fully into shadow. We reached the stairwell. The lights flickered. Once he stopped, not startled, attentive, like he'd been waiting for that exact flicker. The air thickened, the sound dampened, the space between us felt padded, like the building had wrapped itself in insulation. Something moved at the edge of the stairwell, not stepping out, just adjusting the boundary. The man straightened. His shoulders shifted back. His head tilted slightly upward, aligning with something I couldn't see. And then he took one step forward. The stairwell shortened. Not visually, conceptually. The distance between floors compressed into a single, incorrect moment. He didn't fall. He didn't disappear. He simply wasn't there anymore. The stairwell returned to normal. Light steady. I stood alone, heart pounding, realizing something crucial. The second phase doesn't take people who fail. It takes people who fit too well. Those who accept correction. Those who move when space tells them to move. Those who stop resisting definition. I ran back to my apartment and locked the door, breathing hard, keeping every light on. I sat in the center of the room where shadows couldn't fully gather. My phone buzzed. No vibration, just text, already there. Verification complete. Residual subjects detected. Manual review pending. Residual. Leftover. I wasn't corrected. I wasn't removed. I was something that didn't resolve properly. That's when I understood my role. The siren wasn't meant to save everyone. It was meant to separate. The first phase removed those who reacted incorrectly. The second phase refined those who complied perfectly. What remains? What resists without failing has to be addressed individually. I hear footsteps in my apartment now. Not moving from room to room, just repositioning. Like something is testing where I should be standing. And I know there will be no siren this time, no alert, no instructions, just a quiet knock on the geometry of the room, and whatever answers it will decide whether I am still counted. The first knock wasn't a sound. It was a rearrangement. I noticed it because the coffee mug on my table was suddenly closer to the edge than I remembered. Not tipped, not moved abruptly, just repositioned, like the room had corrected for a version of me that stood somewhere else. I hadn't moved. That mattered. The lights stayed on. Every bulb, every room. I stopped using the hallway entirely and stayed where illumination overlapped, where shadows couldn't decide which direction to belong to. I slept in short bursts, never long enough for the apartment to forget where I was. That's when the question started. Not spoken, applied. I would think of something trivial, what to eat, whether to shower, and feel resistance, like the thought was being weighed for relevance. Decisions took longer. Outcomes felt pre-selected. Sometimes I'd reach for an object and my hand would pause halfway, hovering until I committed properly. Indecision had friction now. At 3:02 a.m., the bathroom mirror changed. Not the reflection, the depth. The room behind me appeared longer, stretched slightly as if the mirror was testing alternate layouts. I stepped aside, watching carefully. The mirror corrected itself. Good. Then I saw the text. Condensation on the glass, forming words without steam. Stand where you belong. I didn't move. The sentence faded. I learned quickly what the review wanted. Not obedience, consistency. The people who vanished in the second phase didn't hesitate because they were wrong. They hesitated because they matched too cleanly. They let space tell them who they were. The review targets the opposite. Those who don't resolve. Those who occupy space incorrectly but persistently. Every night the apartment tested me. Doors opening just enough to suggest passage. Corners darkening slightly more than physics allowed. Sounds placed behind me to provoke instinctive turns. Each one was an invitation to align, to snap into a cleaner version of myself. I refused, not by fighting, by being inconvenient. I changed routines constantly, sat in odd places, slept at irregular angles, left objects half-used. I avoided finishing actions cleanly, not sloppy, unfinished. I became hard to classify. The pressure increased. The air grew dense. Movements felt interpolated. Sometimes I caught myself mid-step, the world pausing just long enough to check whether I would complete the motion. One night the room spoke again. Not words. Coordinates, distances, angles. Measurements pressed directly into thought, as if the apartment were offering me a more efficient way to exist. I rejected them. The lights flickered. Once, that was the warning. The final review came without ceremony. No knock, no message, no change in sound. Just a presence of intent. I felt the room narrow around me, not physically, but logically. Possibilities collapsing, futures pruning themselves down to acceptable outcomes. I was being evaluated not for danger, but for utility. Could I be corrected? Could I be removed? Or could I be ignored safely? That was the category I needed. At 4:11 a.m., I sat on the floor, back against the couch, lights on full, breathing slow. I thought of nothing sequential, no counting, no planning, no narrative. I existed poorly, imprecisely. The pressure peaked, then it lifted, not gone, withdrawn. The room relaxed. Depth returned. The air thinned. The sense of being outlined faded, like a cursor blinking off. I checked my phone. No alerts. No messages. But one system log had appeared under battery usage, something that shouldn't exist. Process, review, status. deferred. Notes. Subject non-critical. Non-critical. That's the best outcome. I wasn't corrected. I wasn't removed. I wasn't fixed. I was deemed too inefficient to justify intervention. The city feels different now. Quieter, cleaner, more aligned. People move with confidence that doesn't belong to them. Streets feel optimized. Buildings feel purposeful. The siren hasn't returned. It doesn't need to. The system learned what it needed. As for me, I stay inconsistent. I don't stand where I belong. And as long as I don't, the review won't finish. Because the system hates unfinished work. But it hates wasted effort more. And for now, I am not worth correcting.